Kansas City Chiefs need someone to step up at receiver in the absence of Juju Smith-Schuster. They've got Kadarius Toney, who I think is going to be their new number one guy, Tyreek Hill style. They've got Travis Kelce. Here's Coach Andy Reid when he wasn't talking about ham and grilled cheese on French toast with powdered sugar, talking about Sky Moore as they expect him to step up in year 2.
Yeah, Sky's worked real hard this offseason, and he looks like he's on the same page with Patrick. He's doing a nice job, and again, we just in these camps he's been doing a real nice job. Let's keep on advancing as we go, and he'll do that because he's wired right to do that.
Hey, look, he could be a very potent weapon there. If Toney and Kelce are drawing the attention, he gets single coverage. He's fast enough to make a difference. So let's fill in the blank. After Travis Kelce, blank will have the most receiving yards on the 2023 Chiefs.
DeAndre Hopkins. No, I'm just kidding. It would probably be Sky Moore.
Wow.
I mean, I would think it would be Sky Moore because I would want to say Kadarius Toney, but I don't have faith that he's going to be healthy throughout the entire year. I mean, but the other guy that kind of comes to mind for me is Rashee Rice. I mean, even though rookies don't usually make all of that much of an impact in an Andy Reid offense in their first year, this is a guy that was working out with Patrick Mahomes pre-draft. And I don't think that's everything, but I also don't think it's nothing. So Valdez-Scantling is also there. And I mean, yeah, you got Noah Gray, Jody Fortson, Blake Bell. They have good weapons. Nobody that makes you want to say, oh my goodness, except for Travis Kelce, which is why Travis Kelce is who he is. But yeah, I think Sky Moore is ready to take that step. Obviously, big touchdown in the Super Bowl, and it just seems like he is primed to really take on that bigger role.
I think it'll be Kadarius Toney. I think that they wanted to bring him along slowly. He had a touchdown also in the Super Bowl, and they're trying to kind of will him into that number one receiver role. They've got him under contract for several more years. They got a great deal in trade with the Giants. They brought him in the second year of a low salary. The Giants pay the bulk of the compensation and the signing bonus for that first-round selection. I think it's going to be Toney, and I think they love what he can do because he's the closest thing they have now to what Tyreek Hill used to do for them. All right, Tristan Wirfs, the former right tackle of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, moving to left tackle in the absence of Donovan Smith. Here's Wirfs talking about the change from one side to the other.
Everything's backwards. Just kind of getting used to throwing my left hand instead of my right and not throwing with my right and opening up. Where, like, my weight distribution, like I always used to keep my weight in my left leg. I want to keep it in my right. It's all different. It's so similar. It's like you're doing the same stuff, but it's all just flipped. So just getting as many reps as I can, with Coach Joe, and just to keep building. I had thousands of reps on the right side, and going into as a newborn baby now on the left.
You could see that Wirfs was trying very hard to not characterize the shift the way that he did when he entered the NFL a few years ago. And he said, it feels awkward at first, but once you settle in, it feels fine. It kind of feels like wiping your butt with your other hand. It's awkward at first, but you get used to it. That's what he said coming into the NFL.
That.
And I could tell he's trying to think, is there an opening for this? Should I say this again? Should I not say this again? But he said that before, that's what it's like. It's mirror image. I mean, you think about it. It's complete mirror image of what you're used to. You've got to get used to that change. The Buccaneers are hoping that he will. There was a point earlier this offseason where he was preparing for either one. He wasn't sure what they were going to do. Now it's clear he's going from the right side to the left side. And I think it'll be fine, but it does require that time to make the transition, Myles.
It does. And, this is not nearly the level of competition, but I mean, I did it in high school where I was going from left to right to left all the time. And I had that positional versatility on the offensive line. And it does really require you to think about, okay, what does this mean now that I am on one side or the other side? Like he was saying, how does my weight shift? How do I make sure I don't have any tells for what I'm going to do because I'm playing a different position? So I also think it behooves the Buccaneers to do this now in this season where who knows how good they're going to be in terms of like, what can Tristan Wirfs make this shift? Then it would be, maybe next year, because if it doesn't work out, then you just put him back on the right side and you have a right tackle probably for the next 8 years, right? Because that's how good he is. And we know that he's good. But if he can make this transition to the left side successfully, then that puts you in an even better spot because you don't have to go out and find another left tackle. So I like that the Buccaneers are doing it. And I think Tristan Wirfs has the wherewithal to be able to do it successfully.
Buried in that response, the reality that Myles Simmons was an offensive lineman in high school. Now, I don't know. Maybe you went through some sort of a Russell Okung type transformation after your playing days were over. 40 days of fasting with only water is how Russell Okung lost 100 pounds as quickly as he did. But give me your measurements when you were an offensive tackle in Cleveland.
I was the same height. We were a small private high school, Division 5, which is lower, unlike, where it is in some states where Division 5 is higher. We were lower. So, I was like 6 feet. I think I got up to like 195 pounds, maybe 200. One time the head coach was like, "Oh, we should get you up to like 205. I'm thinking like, I don't want to be that big. It's crazy. I was a pulling guard, 26 power. That was my specialty.
Oh, pulling guard. Okay. All right, good. So you weren't a tackle. You were on the inside. You didn't have to be quite as big. Something new we learned about Myles.
I played offensive tackle when I was younger. I started for 3 years. So when I was a sophomore, I was a tackle, and then I moved inside, and sometimes I would bump over to the right side when we needed it. I played center for a game. I was playing all over the place. I also always made the calls on the OL. That was my thing.
The blank offensive line has the most important job to do in 2023. Which team are you putting in there?
The Jets. There are so many different teams. Like, when we're going through this and I was looking at it, there are so many different teams I could say, but I think the Jets, because of the way the hype train is with Aaron Rodgers, if you don't protect that guy, he is an older quarterback, then that's not going to work, right? If you can't protect him, then the whole project is a non-starter. So that's, I guess, where my mind goes to it with the Jets.
I thought of the Jets as well, and you're right. We've already seen him get injured, non-contact in pre-practice conditioning, pulling a sled or running with a medicine ball or whatever he was doing, but they need to keep him healthy. We've seen him suffer broken collarbones twice, getting dragged down to the ground. So the Jets offensive line, you're right. They need to keep him clean and upright. And you've got Mekhi Becton, who aspires to play left side. You've got Dwayne Brown, who seems a little salty about the prospect of moving to the right side. Both guys aren't healthy. We don't even know who's going to be able to play tackle for the Jets at this point. That's been glossed over in this euphoria about having Aaron Rodgers in New York. Who's going to be the 5 guys who are trying to keep him in one piece and able to play as long as he can? So I think that is the clear number one. Now, beyond that, you can go a lot of different directions. I thought about the Browns because they're the great wild card this year, and Deshaun Watson, to get the most out of Deshaun Watson, you better be able to protect him, but he's got the mobility that it's not as critical. I'll go back to a team we talked about earlier in the program. If you're going to get the most out of Russell Wilson, and you look at the investment that the Broncos have already made in the offseason in the offensive line, you've got to give him a chance to thrive. The offensive line has to do better, or this is all going to collapse, and Russell's going to be out of there. And Garrett Bowles can bemoan the fact that his good friend Russell Wilson is playing for some other team next year because the offensive line wasn't good enough to let him do what he needs to do to save his job.
Yeah, exactly. Russ can't cook if he doesn't have the ingredients, right? And I think that if the shoe chefs up front don't allow him that time, then you're going to be burning a meal or whatever else I guess we could go to it's like he'd be dumping the chicken into the fryer without, breaking the surface first, right? So there you go, to call back to earlier in the show. I would also go to the Dolphins as one where you definitely need good protection for Tua Tagovailoa based on what we know about the injury history there. The Ravens, if you want to get the most out of Lamar Jackson in a new offensive scheme, got to be able to protect and still have to be able to run block effectively. I think the Bills offensive line could stand to be a little bit more physical. Houston, Carolina, with rookie quarterbacks. Colts, Tennessee, potentially there as well. Rams need a big rebound year from their offensive line. It's interesting. We were talking about Tristan Wirfs. Like, the Bucs are very far down my list, I guess, just because I don't have very high expectations for them in general.
So basically what you're saying is I should have asked you to list the teams that don't have offensive lines that need to step up this year, because you pretty much listed half the league. But you're right. Look, it's critical. And the reality, I said this earlier, I think, with offensive lines, You don't notice them when they're playing well. When they're playing well, you notice the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers, the tight ends. You only notice the offensive line when they suck, and the quarterback doesn't have time to even take a look down the field before he's got to either run for it or just get rid of the football or get slammed to the ground. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.